taking a first look this hour at the annual report by Supreme Court Justice John Roberts. In it, he's urging the Senate to quickly fill the vacancies on the federal bench, saying it is causing what he calls acute difficulties. Now, Roberts acknowledges that the politics are at play in blocking judicial nominees, and he says it is urgent that lawmakers find a long-term solution to what he calls a persistent problem. Roberts also talks about stagnant funding for federal courts, but unlike past years, he did not address pay raises for judges. Let's dig in a little deeper into Chief Justice's annual report. One of my favorite guests, Suzette Malveaux. She is a law professor at Catholic University here in Washington. She's also my twin sister. My favorite guest. Hey, Suzette, welcome back. By popular demand, I'll have you know.
Thank you.
They're like, where's Professor Malveaux? We want her back. We want her back.
It's great to be back. Thanks, Son.
Tell us a little bit about the report. What's your initial reaction?
Very interesting. I have to say I agree with Chief Justice Roberts in terms of his emphasis on the importance of filling these judicial vacancies. It is absolutely critical. If you look at the number of cases the Supreme Court considers, it's very few. And so it is really important for the Senate to confirm qualified people in these positions. To do otherwise, I mean, really,
is it a crisis situation?
It's really a crisis situation and no way to run a democracy.
I noticed the one thing he did not recommend is pay raises, so I guess we should take our cue and not ask our bosses for pay raises either this go around.
We'll keep that silent.
All right. Tell us, what was the most interesting or even important, significant case of last year of the Supreme Court?
Hands down with Citizens United. You remember the big campaign finance case, right, where there was a law that said corporations cannot spend money to either support or oppose political candidates. Well, the Supreme Court said that Congress got it wrong. Basically, that was unconstitutional and that corporations should be treated just like persons and they should be able to make contributions to political campaigns.
And President Obama was not happy with this. We saw the State of the Union. Right. He took on Congress, said he didn't like this. And then one of the justices actually said that's not true, or that's not, he shook his head?
Right, which is highly unusual. Usually the protocol is the justices don't make any reaction at all, so that was really very different. That was quite a surprise.
Tell us some other significant developments of last year.
Well, if we look at certainly the retirement of Justice Stevens, he was there on the bench for 35 years, so the loss of an icon. We had Justice Kagan coming in. She was confirmed. We're not quite sure what her impact will be because she's recused herself from about half the cases because she was Solicitor General.
And we got 3 female Supremes.
Exactly,
not
right.
Kind, but you know. Tell us about that.
And we've got 3 women on the court for the first time in history, which is really exciting and interesting to watch them sort of distinguish themselves from one another. So really carve out their own reputations.
Big cases coming up to watch this year.
First Amendment, there is a religious group that's going around the country that is protesting at funerals. And they're taking the position against the federal government's policy related to gays in the military. So sad circumstances. You had a son who died in Iraq in the war. The family was having a funeral for him, a private funeral. And outside they've got protesters. They've got signs that say things like God hates the United States or thank God for dead soldiers. Very hurtful stuff. And so the family sued and got $5 million because of the emotional trauma that they experienced.
What's the question?
Well, the protesters have said that they have a First Amendment right to free speech and to protest. So the court is trying to figure out where is the boundary line.
And this is the same group that showed up at Elizabeth Edwards' funeral because of her own support of gay rights. What is another important case that you're watching?
Class actions. There is the largest civil rights class action in American history, the Walmart case. And so you had 1.5 million women nationwide challenging Walmart for pay and promotions discrimination on the basis of gender. Turns out the question is whether or not the case should go forward as a class action, right? And I know it seems kind of technical, but class action is really important. Sometimes it's the only way you can challenge nationwide, company-wide misconduct, right? So if I'm an individual, maybe I can't afford a lawyer. I might not be able to challenge. I'd be too afraid to challenge my employer, or my claims are so small it doesn't make sense to go forward. So there's strength in numbers, and the class action is sometimes the only way people have their day in court.
Okay, a couple things that obviously we've been watching very closely. That is the health care reform, and where is that going to go? And a lot of people are very confused about the whole thing. How does that play out in the courts?
Well, it's going to be percolating. I mean, as you can see, the big issue seems to be the requirement that individuals have to purchase health insurance if they can afford it. And some people have pushed back and said that that's unconstitutional. So the courts are fighting over that. They're wrestling over that, and it's really being teed up to go to the Supreme Court.
Immigration reform.
All right, in immigration reform, you have state laws that are trying to control immigration. The court is looking to see whether or not that's really the job of the federal government and not the states.
And final question, do you have any resolutions for the Supreme Court justices?
I would say take more cases.
Okay, take more cases?
I know it's terrible to say work even harder, but I'd say take more cases.
All right. I say you and I should resolve to work a little less hard.
I totally agree with that.
All right. We have New Year's Eve plans, right?
Right. I'll see you tonight.
All right, great.
Okay,
Thank you,
great.
Suzette. Appreciate it.